Is $5 million enough to retire on? You may be shocked by hearing that number, and I'm a little shocked too. In December of 2024, a Yahoo article talked about Grant Cardone had said that most people need about $5 million to retire on. Now, to me, I thought, $1 million seems like a good number to retire on, and I still do think that's probably a better number than $5 million. Most of us probably don't have the capacity or the ability to retire on $5 million. I mean, think about that. That means you're spending about $200,000 a year and you need that much money in retirement. That is a whole lot of money. In today's video, we're talking about is $5 million enough to retire on? If you stick to the end, I've got a 3-step process to help you to get to your retirement number. All right, let's get to it. Like I said, Grant Cardone was saying that $5 million is like the amount of money people need. I understand this. Lifestyle creep is happening. People are spending more money. Cars are getting more expensive. Healthcare is going through the roof. So where's all this money going to come from? Will we be able to have enough money to retire? Well, that is the question that people are trying to figure out. Now, the old school way was thinking you need $1 million and that's enough to retire on. And I have talked to some early retirees in the past, and first of all, they probably figured out the amount of money they needed they retired early, and then that money kind of compounded over time, and now they're kind of living without any worries. And that is something that I kind of think about too. How can I get to a number that I think is enough money for me to retire? Now, most people think about, all right, maybe $1 million is not as much because, inflation is eating away the money. That's very true. Maybe the USA is very expensive. Well, yeah, that's very true as well. So how much money do we need to retire? Well, the average rule, or the rule that most people follow, is called the 4% rule. Now, the 4% rule is taking the amount of money you have, you times it by 4%, and that is the amount of money you can spend per year. So if we were to take, let's say, $1 million, like the old school way, and we times that by 4%, that is about $40,000 you can take from that investment every single year, and your money should not run out by the time of retirement. Now, this 4% rule came from the Trinity study, which was completed in 1997. And what it found was over a 30-year period, if you were to safely withdraw 4% every single year from your investments, your money would not run out in a 30-year period. And possibly people have said, in the past, 4% is probably a good number. Some people are saying maybe 5%, but I like the 4% rule. So if you really want to make this kind of simple and use good numbers to kind of simplify this, what you should do is take maybe your annual expenses or the expenses you think you're going to spend in retirement and multiply that by 25. So let's say you think you need $50,000 a year. So if you multiply that by 25, it'll come out to be $1.25 million, and that is the amount of money that you can kind of safely retire on. And if you take 4% of that out, that's about $50,000. Now this money is continued to grow. So you got 4%, maybe you have 3% for inflation rates, and maybe it's going to grow. If it does 10%, well, that's great news. That means your money is growing over time. So these are just some things to think about. So that's a way to kind of figure out how much money you need for your retirement. Not what I need, not what other people need, but what you need. Each person is different. Each person has a different lifestyle. Maybe some people think the USA is a little bit too expensive, so they may travel to South America, Southeast Asia, live somewhere cheaper. I mean, Mexico's got some great places. Costa Rica, people go to Portugal. People are flying to Southeast Asia, to like Thailand and Malaysia to retire. There's so many great places you could retire. You don't have to be in a high cost of living area like New York City or maybe in California. You could be somewhere else. No offense to those places. Those places are great, but people may retire in lower cost living areas to save some more money. Now, that could be something you may be thinking about. That could be something you haven't thought about. But that's just some thoughts to think about. So you may not be able to achieve that $1 million, or you may be able to go past it. So you just got to do the math. Now let's look at some expenses for the future. I was looking at USA Today and just seeing some common expenses for different states. You got like states like Alabama where you need about maybe $60,000 per year. And maybe some other states you need $65,000, $70,000. So if you need some of these expenses, you're going to have to break down in the math. First of all, all, we got to see how much money we need. So let's say you need about $65,000 a year, and maybe with Social Security and maybe you have some other income, some other pensions coming in, that brings up the income up to about $25,000. So if you subtract $65,000, subtract $25,000, you're going to come up with needing about $40,000 per year from your investments. And so that's where I get it $1 million from. So if you know you need $40,000 from your investments for retirement, you then take $40,000 times it by 25. That's $1 million you need for retirement. Now, like I said, not everybody needs that much money. Some people need less, some people need more. It just depends on your lifestyle and how much you want to spend. Now, personally, I'm a pretty frugal person, and so my goal is $1 million, and I know just my VTI alone, that's a lot of money in my VTI. It's going to come out to about $4 million by the time I hit retirement, and so that is set, and so I'm going to continue to invest in other things, and I'm going to continue to invest in VTI, so then maybe I hit retirement maybe at age 50 or maybe age 55, and so then I have time to do other things like other hobbies. I like travel, so I like to go travel. So those are some things to think about. Now, the average or the median retiree has an average savings of about $185,000 if their ages 55 to 65. So that means not everybody's hitting that big $5 million number. Not everybody's hitting that $1 million number. So if you start to invest today, I don't know how old you are or what life cycle you are in, but if you started to invest today, you could hit that $1 million. The question you may have is, how do I hit $1 million? Today, I'm going to give you a 3-step way in order to hit that $1 million. First of all, is to start to cut some of your expenses. Take a look at your budget. Take a look at how much you're spending on so and so. Well, if you can pay off your mortgage, well, you don't have that expense anymore. If you can maybe possibly get a cheaper car or not have such an expensive car, that can help out. Most millionaires drive Toyotas, Hondas, and Fords. So possibly you could do what the millionaire does and try a cheap, reliable car. That could be something that you could look into. And then try to figure out some things that you could save some money on. Maybe you make coffee better at home than Starbucks. No offense to those that like Starbucks, but I make better coffee at home. So that's a way I could save some money, is to drink my coffee at home instead of getting some Starbucks out when I'm driving around. Or maybe cut down on your streaming service, or stop going out to eat 3 to 4 times a week. Start going out to eat maybe just 1 time a week, and then save that extra for your future. So then when you're retired, yeah, you can go out to eat 3 or 4 times a week because you just feel like it. So those are some things you can start doing. Number 2 is to start investing your money. Now, I have talked about investing on this channel. I've talked about ETFs. I have talked about a good 3-fund portfolio, but simply start investing today. That could be investing in a simple S&P 500 ETF like VOO or VTI. Maybe you want dividends, so like an SCHD is a great dividend ETF, or maybe you're looking for growth because you have 20, 30 years. QQQ or SCHG could be a great ETF to invest in. But like I said, start investing today. An investment into index fund or ETF that tracks the S&P 500 could yield about 10% yearly, which is done for the last 100 years. With the ups and downs, it averages out to about 10% per year. So if you were to invest $20 a day or $600 a month, that's like $7,000 a year. It would take you about 28 years to hit $1 million. Now, of course, if you were to increase that amount to maybe $1,000, that amount of years is going to decrease to about 24 years. So think about that. If you wanted to hit that $1 million, all you have to do is cut back on some expenses, save more money, and maybe have a little side hustle. If you could make an extra $20 to $30 a week, maybe $100 a week, or even $500 a week, you could put that straight in your investments, and the faster that money can snowball, the faster you can hit your retirement number. And maybe at age 50, you have $1 million, and you're thinking, I could go and golf a little bit and enjoy a little bit more life and not have to worry about my retirement. Those are some things you can do. And step number 3 is, of course, to automate your investments. You know, it is easy when kind of your investments are investing without you even thinking about it. Right now, I've got M1 Finance that puts in money like once every 2 weeks. And so I don't even think about it. It just continues to snowball and the money grows and grows. So those are some things you could be thinking about. Those are some ways in order to hit that $1 million. So let me know in the comments, is $5 million enough to retire? Or is it better to think about, is $1 million enough to retire? Let me know what your financial independence number is. What is your retirement number? And leave it in the comments and let's discuss. Let's have some fun, and I'll see you in our next video.